Hello, everyone. Happy Sabbath. For our AY today, our theme is how led you to where you are today and advice to people still figuring out what their calling is. And so we're going to do a panel, but first we're going to play a little game and then we'll have opening prayer, praise team by April, and then we'll get into the program. So let's do our little trivia game. Oh wait, can you guys see this screen? I had trouble last time, so did you guys?
See it?
Is it like full screen?
It's still loading. Yeah, it's good now.
Yeah, it's full screen.
Okay, but it's the next slide. Wait. Okay. Hello, everybody who are joining. Okay. Bible trivia. Okay, let's start. So, our first question. Who had a dream that their brother or brothers would bow down to them? Isaac, Shem, Joseph, or Moses?
See.
Pardon?
C. C.
Yes.
Joseph.
The
Oh,
picture of his rainbow robe. Question. What couple in the Bible thought they were too old to have a big A. Mary and Joseph, B. Isaac and Rebecca, C. Sarah and Abraham, or D. Boaz and Ruth?
see.
C.
Yes,
C.
it is Sarah and Abraham.
Whoa. These pictures from.
Google.
Oh.
Okay. Next question. In Jeremiah 29:11, it says, For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to blank you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Is it A, love, B, uphold, C, prosper, or D, caress? I'm so sorry.
C.
See.
C.
Correct. Sorry. Okay. Next question. How did I? Oh, there you go. In Romans 8:28, it says, and we know that for those who love God, all things work blank for good for those who are called according to his purpose. Is it A, out, B, closer, C, apart, or D, together?
D.
D. C.
Did you say C?
One shot is D.
Yeah, it's D. Correct. B. Next question. In Proverbs 3:5-6, it says, Trust in
Little heart.
yes, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him, and he will make your paths. Is it A, clear, B, straight, C, decisive, or D, known?
It's B.
B. Anyone
B.
else?
E. Straight.
It's straight, yes. The next question is, what dangerous event did God help Daniel's friends survive? Is it A, being stoned, B, enslavement, C, starved in prison for 3 years, or D, being thrown into a fiery furnace?
D.
E.
B. Did someone say
D.
D? Yes, guys, it's being thrown into a fiery furnace.
Yeah.
And next question. In Psalm 37:23-24, it says, The Lord makes blank of the one who delights in him. Though he may stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand.
A.
It's okay, you're right. It is. Oh wait, it's not Ray. Sorry.
C.
Oh, yeah, guys, sorry. It's C. I exposed the answer. but it's make firm the steps of the one who delights in him. Though he may stumble, he will not fall, for the Lord upholds him with his hand. And next question, what did God do to Job when he lost everything? His family, house, animals, and crops. Did A, Job curse God so he left him with nothing? Or B, Job remained faithful and God doubled his possessions? C, Job prayed and God decided to restore his family? Or D, Job questioned God so God gave him back half of his possessions? Can you read those ones over? It's kind of long.
B.
Which one?
I think it's a B.
B.
Anyone else have any answers? It is B. Correct. Oh, it's a little picture. In Matthew 6:25, it says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your blank, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothes? Is it A, life, B, troubles, C, decisions, or D, trials?" Anybody?
A.
My dad said troubles.
I'm gonna guess
A.
C.
C. A. Let's see what the answer is. It is life. They gave us. Okay. In Romans 12:2, it says, "Do not conform to the blank of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to blank and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." Is it A, ways, and the second blank no? Or is it B, patterns, and the second blank?
A.
Okay. Or is it C, riches, understand, the second one, or worldly things, and the second choice, live? Anyone else? I know someone said A. Do not conform to the ways of the world, but be
An
transformed.
A.
Is
A.
it
I'm guessing.
try to
Maybe
find?
An A.
It's actually A. Wait.
Yes.
Wait.
Sorry, I put the wrong letter, but it's B, patterns. So
Huh?
do not conform to the patterns. I know maybe in a different translation or a different,
Conform to the patterns of this world. Oh, okay.
but yeah, the second blank is test. Yeah, so the next question, why did Jonah go to Nineveh? Is it A, to warn them of God's wrath? B, he heard they had good food? C, to visit his relatives? Or D,
Ah,
needed
you already put the answer A.
It's A, yes. Sorry, guys. Anyways, we'll move on to our opening prayer. Thank you guys for participating. We'll have our opening prayer by Rev.
Okay, guys, let's bow our heads for opening prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this Sabbath day. And thank you for the nice weather here in Vancouver. And I thank you that we are able to rest. And I pray that you be with this program. And I hope that we get to learn more about you and we get to fellowship with each other also. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, Rev. And I will have our praise team, which is by April. And it's recorded. So, yeah.
Great is thy faithfulness, O God, my Father. There is no shadow of toil when heart doth fail, God will take care of you. When dangerous fears your path assail, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day over the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. All you may need, He will provide. God will take care of you. Nothing you ask will be denied. God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day over the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. No matter what may be the test, God will take care of you. Lean, weary one upon His breast, God will take care of you. God will take care of you through every day over the way. He will take care of you. God will take care of you. Come, every soul by sin oppressed, there's mercy with the Lord, and He will surely give you rest by trusting in His word. Only trust Him, only trust Him, only trust Him now. He will save you, He will save you, He will save you now. For Jesus shed His precious blood, rich blessings to bestow. Plunge now into the crimson flood that washes bright as snow. Only trust Him, only trust Him, only trust Him now. He will save you, He will save you, He will save you now. Yes, Jesus is the truth, the way that leads you into rest. Believe in Him without delay, and you are fully blessed. Only trust Him, only trust Him, only trust Him now. He will save you, He will save you, He will save you now. Only trust Him, only trust Him, only trust Him now. He will save you, He will save you, He will save you now.
Thank you to April for doing the praise team. Now we'll have start our panel, and our first speaker today is going to be Ella. So Ella, if you can. Hi Ella, beautiful background. Oh, sorry, you're muted. Hello.
Thank you. I miss the mountains. That's why I wanted them here with me.
Pretty.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess I just want to start off by asking a very rhetorical question. How many of us here are students? So we have a lot of students here. I feel like, yeah, okay. So most of the people here are students. So you know what it's like, right? To, I guess, always want to work hard for the future, always preparing yourself, wanting to do our best. So for me, I feel like I've been a student for very many years of my life, probably for most of my life, I've been a student. And I feel like after how many years has it been? 12 plus 5, 17 years of being a student, I feel like I've learned a lot of things. But I think that I've also picked up a lot of, I guess, ways of functioning that may not be very representative of real life afterward. So when I say that, what I really mean is about the hustle culture. Have you guys heard of the hustle culture before? I think it's this idea that we constantly, yeah, I see Ren's thumbs up. Thank you. It's that idea that we constantly have to be working hard, that we always have to be achieving, that we need to make the most of our time. And I think that that's something I especially struggled with during the pandemic because we had time to ourselves. And so there was that struggle to make every minute meaningful, and to just accomplish as much as I can during that time. And I don't think that there was any one teacher or one class particularly that gave me those values and forced me to adopt that for myself. But that is, I guess, a mode of functioning that I have picked up during school. And the thing with the hustle culture is that yes, it's all well and good to work hard, but what are you working for, and what are you hoping to accomplish, and why do you do what you do? And if you are unable to meet those goals, what's going to happen to you? So I think that for myself, something that I've really struggled with is, I guess, like, because I'm a student, I feel like I've taken on this identity as a student and I've applied it to everything in my life. So now I expect myself to be able to get everything right the first time around, because especially when it comes to like tests or taking a program at school, everybody wants to get it right the first time around. You don't want to have to retake a test. You don't want to have to go to school for another program. You kind of just want to get it right the first time. And it's that level of perfection that you expect for yourself. But then for me, I guess what made me start to realize that this sort of mindset and way of living is not very realistic of real life is actually school. So a little bit about my story is, I guess, like we're trying to figure out how we get to where we are. The question was how God has led you to your career, right? So I was just inside earlier, just joking with my friends. Oh, maybe they should have asked you guys to come and speak because I don't actually have a career yet. I'm still a student. I don't have it figured out. But they were very gracious and God-fearing, and they reminded me, Ella, even if you don't have a career yet, you're on your way and God has really guided you. So I guess now I'm just really grateful for the chance that I have to share a little bit about what God has done in my life. So I guess I alluded a little bit to sort of the mindset that I picked up while being a student, and something that I'm currently wrestling with. But what I'm so grateful for is that even though I had that mindset of trying to, just like work hard and prepare myself for the future, it was books like Ecclesiastes, actually, and Proverbs that kind of asked me, Ella, why are you working so hard? What is it that you're hoping to accomplish? What are you trying to do with, I guess, the talents and the time and the connections that you've been given? And so I guess to to take things back to grade 6, grade 11, high school, middle school. Around that time, I think is when I really realized what I wanted to do in life, and that was to be a doctor. And I remember in grade 6, I had this friend in my class. Her name was Cindy. And both of us were just talking about how in a couple years we would graduate from high school, and our goal was to go to UBC. And I wanted to go to UBC to get a BSc, a bachelor's in science, so that I could go on and do medicine at UBC. And so we made a pact in grade 6 that we would both get into our dream universities. I would get into UBC, she would get into Simon Fraser University, and it would be good. So senior year rolls around, both of us get into the universities that we want to, and both of us are so happy. But I guess in the middle of the summer, after I had paid for a little bit of I paid my $500 deposit to UBC. I'd already chosen my classes. I already had made plans to go to UBC. All of a sudden, a bunch of church members from Maine just started talking to me and asking me, hey, Ella, have you ever considered having Adventist education or going to Berman University? And I was so surprised because I was thinking, oh, weren't these the same people who congratulated me for getting into UBC? But I realized that because they hadn't talked to each other, that God was really trying to tell me something through these people. So it was that experience specifically that showed me that even though I hustle very hard, keep my head down and work, it's really God who establishes your steps. And I believe there's a verse in Proverbs that says exactly that a man may make plans in his heart, but it's really the Lord who establishes their steps. So that was very humbling to me for someone who really had that hustle mindset, who honestly still has that hustle mindset, that no matter how hard I work, at the end of the day, it is the Lord who will direct my steps. And that's honestly what I want. I want God to be able to guide me. I want him to be able to let me know where I'm going and what I'm doing. And I guess that's where my walk with him started to grow a little bit more, especially being away from home. I didn't have my parents anymore to ask me if I was going to church. And so when I went to church, I had to decide that for myself. Proverbs 16, verse 9. Thank you so much, Lamar. Actually, do you mind posting the verse exactly, or did I quote it right?
You quoted it right. You're good.
Oops. Hello?
You quoted it right,
Oh.
but I will post it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah. So I think that was the first step that God went in directing my career, because he directed me to the right school. And then the next step that he had to take was getting me to fully surrender. And I suppose that's where my next experience of moving from Berman to Loma Linda University, where I'm at now, comes into play. So I think I've mentioned this to a couple of my friends before, but I have no problems giving God my messes. If something is going wrong in my life, I will have no problems praying to him, God, can you help me with this mess? Or can you help me with this test that I didn't study for? Or God, can you help me because I messed up in some area and I would like for you to fix it. There's no problems in me going to God and giving him my mess. But something that God was teaching me is that I can also give him my future. And that sacrifice is so much harder because I guess in my mind, I saw I had worked so hard to be able to get to this place. I put in very many years of work. I skipped out on hanging out with friends. I made a lot of sacrifices to be here. And so to offer my future to God and to give it to him was a very unknown variable, because the thing about trusting in God is that sometimes, like, we have our own schedules, right? But then God's ways are so much higher than our own. So then it's sometimes stressful to wait on God's timing because it's not in our control. Does that make sense? But it's sort of the point, that it's not in your control. But even then, it's so uncomfortable. So to, I guess, make sense of what I was trying to say, I'll give you the specific instance that applies to. So after I graduated from Berman University last year in 2020, I took my MCAT and I decided, I was debating whether I should apply to different universities, but in my heart, I was already convicted that God really wanted me to go to an Adventist medical school. And so I applied to Loma Linda, and it was the only university I applied to. And after I got my acceptance, then I started asking God, how am I going to move to America in the middle of a pandemic? I don't know anybody in California. I don't have family there. I don't have a car. I don't have a home. How am I going to do that? And those are very real questions that I was supposed to be asking, especially if I was trying to make a life in California. But God didn't answer them in March. He didn't answer it in April, May. He answered it, well, I actually had to fly to California before God answered those prayers. And at that time, I was going through sort of a faith crisis, not in the sense where I didn't believe in God, but in the sense where I wasn't sure if I heard his voice, because what he was asking me to do was ridiculous, to leave my home and become a hobo in California and to be a Canadian in the midst of a foreign country in a pandemic. Like, is that really what God is asking me to do? And I knew that just hearing those facts itself, it doesn't really sound realistic. You would think that I should have a plan first before going. Like, I don't want to be presumptuous. And I think that that was exactly the argument that I was having with God. I was, or I guess the debate or the problem that I was thinking about. I was wondering, am I really stepping out in faith to fly to California with no home and no car? Or am I being presumptuous in going ahead and thinking that God is going to provide for me? Because at that point, I'd already been humbled. I already knew that I should be willing to offer my future to God, no matter how much work and effort I put in, because at the end of the day, he was the one that made it all possible, right? But it's still so hard to wait on God's timing, especially when it's not on your own terms and when you're really put out of your comfort zone. So what really encouraged me was reading the Hebrews 11 chapter on faith. The particular text that spoke to me was the part where it talks about how Abraham was called to leave his hometown and to go to a place where he did not know and where he would be a stranger. And that was counted to him as faith. So that specifically was the instance where I think that God was telling me, Ella, I know that I've dealt with your messes before and I'm happy to do it. But if you would only give me your future, the one that you haven't messed up yet, the one that you've been working so hard to preserve and to make beautiful, if you would give that to me, I can work with that too. You don't have to mess up for me to work in your life. I can work with your future if you are willing to surrender. And some verses that really resonate with me, that I was really pondering as I was debating whether I should offer up to God, are some verses that I'm going to quickly post in the chat right now. Give me a moment. Copy. Thank you. Yes, you also posted Hebrews 11, verse 8. Thank you for your patience, you guys. I appreciate it because I am currently on my phone right now, trying to do this. Okay, it looks like the other verses aren't posting, but I can read them out for you. The second one I have is Matthew chapter 6, verse 10. It reads, "Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven." Another verse I have is Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 to 6. We all know this by heart. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. And then I also have Romans chapter 8, verse 28. It says, and we know that God causes all things to work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to his purpose. And the other verse, which I posted in the chat right now, is Jeremiah chapter 29. Sorry, I don't think I posted that one, but I'll read Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. I'm pretty sure we all know this by heart as well. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for welfare and not for calamity, to give you a hope in a future. And I believe that it was that verse specifically that that really convicted my heart, that as I mentioned, I don't just have to wait until I make mistakes before I offer them to God, but that there's something very beautiful in offering my future to him. And even though it's uncomfortable to offer him all of the hard work that I had put in and all of this time and the sacrifices I'd made, it's worth it because he was the one who gave me that life to begin with. And so with that conviction in my heart, I moved to California, and then I am still going to school here. I'm finishing up my first year soon. I'm going to be a student for a very long time, but I appreciate and I'm so grateful that God has given me the blessing of being a student, because as I have learned, I feel like I've also grown in my relationship with him. And I guess the last thought I want to leave you with is, okay, Ella, like that's super great that you were able to figure out your life. So when it comes to me, who also has a future that I can offer to God, what can I do about that future? What are some practical ways that I can invite God to be a part of my future and give my future to God? And I think that something that I've learned is that the more that you are like God, the more you will do the things he wants you to do. So rather than praying for direction, you can pray to be like Jesus. You can learn what he does. You can love who he loves, and that will help you realize what to do. And what you do will always be in line with his will, because he is creating you to be more like you. I was having a conversation with a couple people in my religion class, and we were talking about the difference between passion and calling. Because these days we hear a lot of people saying, oh, I chose this job because I was passionate about it, or I didn't choose to do this job because I wasn't passionate about it. And so as physicians, we started asking ourselves, is what we're doing a passion or a calling? And I think that in my opinion, I feel that your passion can most certainly, inform your calling. I think that what you want to, or what you are excited about can definitely help you to find your calling. But at the end of the day, God has a calling for you. And the more that you put yourself in a place to be more like him, the more that you will realize what he wants you to do, and the more that you will do that. So that is my testimony and something that I'm working on, just being more like Jesus so that I can do what Jesus wants me to do.
Thank you, Ella. Thank you so much. I love your story. Every time I hear about your university and how you got accepted to UBC, like every time I hear it, it really gets to me. So let's move on to our next panelist. Lavina, if you can put your camera on. Hi. So pretty outside.
Hello. This is your like park. Do you guys want to see? I don't know if you can see anything, but like, yeah, it's really pretty out here. Anyways, so my turn. Oh my. I feel like Ella said a lot of good points, so I have to piggyback off of some of the things she said, but I'm gonna try to fit 10 years in 10 minutes or 5, hopefully. But for those of you who don't know, I am currently working as a cosmetologist at a salon and spa. So what that means is that I do like hair and like facials, massage, nails, like that kind of stuff. Basically in the beauty industry. And so it all started back in high school. Actually, I was really into, well, like hair and makeup, in case you couldn't tell. But yeah, I remember being really into it, and then thinking like, oh, like maybe I could pursue this as a career. But I just remember people going like, oh, like what a cute hobby, like. And so I was like, okay, maybe it's not really a career. And then I also remember people saying like, well, how are you going to honor God as a makeup artist? Like, isn't that like kind of ironic or like contradictory to like being Adventist or whatever? And so I guess with that, it was, even though it was like a big, I don't know if passion's the right word, but it was like a really big interest of mine. I was always kind of conflicted, like why do I like this stuff if it's not really, I don't want to say not allowed, but it's not a very popular career to be into when you're in the church, right? And I remember thinking like, and other people suggesting like, oh, like why not nursing? And which, I mean, hats off to nurses and stuff, but I don't have the stomach for it. Like I don't know if I could handle that. But yeah, but I knew that I always wanted to help people. I knew that I liked working with my hands and stuff like that, and like creating and beauty in general. And so I was like, okay, maybe I should think of something a little more prestigious. And so I was like, oh, my mom's uncle is an architect. Maybe I want to do that, And I started like looking at that, or just like looking at different careers that would be bigger, or something that I could actually pursue. But with that, it was always like, yeah, okay, like that sounds like a good answer, but like I feel like deep down inside I knew it wasn't what I wanted to do. But like it was like an answer that would suffice people. They'd be like, okay, yeah, like that's a good career. And then I remember in grade 12, it was grad photos. And I know most of you guys know who Mrs. Ryden is. I remember being in the back of our classroom. We're learning about sinusoidal waves, if you guys have learned that yet. And she let me just set up and do makeup for the girls in our class for grad photos. And I was like, okay, this is cool. And so with that, I just started like freelancing, so it was a hobby that I was making money off of, I guess. Like, like if people had events to go to or weddings or whatever, they would be like, hey, like, do you want to come and do my makeup? And I would go do that. And so, I was like, God, like, can we make something work? But yeah, but I had like all these people going like, are you sure that's what you want to do? And so I told myself, you know what, I'm just going to pursue it. And then at least it'll be something for me to do for work while trying to figure out what my true purpose is, what my true career is. And, like with our church group, and just like the more I had my own personal relationship with God, and the more that I understood him, and the more that I was able to really kind of pinpoint his character for myself, which was, yes, caring, but also in my study and my understanding, Jesus, when he came down here on earth, was a healer and a teacher. And so I was like, that is what I want to purpose in my career and in my work and what I do. Because I think, especially like everybody who's graduating right now, who's in school, it's like, it's so stressful to try to figure out what you want to do, because you kind of end up tying your identity to that, and yeah. And it's really interesting. One of the biggest things that I've learned is that you are not your career, and it's like, not that you shouldn't take it seriously, but I think more than that, you should look at the purpose of why you want to do what you want to do. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? For me, it's wanting to be a healer and a teacher, and wanting to care for people. And I feel like God gives you certain desires and certain skills and interests that will help you in accomplishing that. And for me, it happened to be aesthetics and hair and like the beauty industry. And at first when people would ask me like, how would you serve God doing this, because for me, honoring God was like the ultimate goal in what I wanted to do, like in what I was doing, and for the longest time I didn't know how to answer that. But like, thank God that his wisdom and like what he wants for you, that he wants you to be genuinely happy. And with his wisdom and his love and his foresight, he's able to make that happen for you. And so I learned a lot about myself and my faith while I was in school for hair and aesthetics. Because, and it's funny because like Ella was wanting to stay here and be local, like at UBC, and then public university, and I wanted to be in a public university because I went to Deer Lake my whole life, but I wanted to go like far away, like experience life somewhere across the country doing this prestigious career or whatever. But like God was like, bloom where you're planted. And that was a hard lesson to learn, but now is one of my favorite lessons to share. So with that being said, when I was in school for hair, that's when I was essentially like dumped into the real world, right? Where like now you're with people who aren't necessarily Adventist or like grew up in that mindset. And so in that, like while I was learning how to be prepared for my career, God was also teaching me things of my faith and how to share my faith and how to restore his image and show who he really is and share his character with other people. And then with that, like other people would be like, oh, I feel like you'd be really good at aesthetics. And so that's how I ended up going into that. And then even now, like when I'm at work, the conversations and the people that I meet, I'm thinking like, I just had to go back and be like, wow, God, like, I get it. Like, thank you. Like I couldn't have planned this. Like I couldn't have foreseen this and have told people that this is how I was able to honor him. And then like, even now, because now I'm back in school for RMT, and that was just kind of like a follow-up from everything I've been doing here. I think it, yeah, so like with that, now I'm back in school and like learning even more, and and seeing God at work even more in my life, like things that I really had to battle with going to a public institution in the terms of honoring the Sabbath and honoring God in that way, and like be, I guess, I don't want to say at risk to fail, but like essentially kind of is, but like God really honoring that and not just helping me do good, but like excelling in those things, and yeah, and then just like people coming to know you as a person, and they're like, oh, you're different, but then or they're like, oh, I didn't realize that God was like this, or like God, or like church was like that, or like more, I don't know if accessible is the word, but more appealing than they thought it was going to be. But anyways, back to careers. One of the sermons, or actually there's two sermons that really made me realize that, you are more than your career is kind of the pathway or the tools that God has given you in order to accomplish your purpose or what it is you're purposing to do. The first one was Eric Walsh, and he is a doctor, and I believe he's somewhere like up there in the government, and he's Adventist also. But basically something happened, like this scandal thing happened where basically he was now suspended as a doctor and he couldn't practice. And then he was like, God, I thought you wanted me to be a doctor, and I thought that like being a doctor was how I was working for you and honoring you. And yes, it was, but like God is so much bigger than that, and like the things that he got to learn about himself and like how to honor God in other ways, like really opened his eyes to that. And then there was another one where Sebastian Braxton, there was like this old what you call it, basically he got arrested for like this really old thing that happened way back in the day in a different state, and then when he crossed that state line, he ended up having to go to jail. Anyways, he ended up doing Bible studies and preaching to the whole entire jail. Like pretty much all of them converted, and it turned out that he only had to sign this one thing to be like set free again. But it just reminded me of that apostle, I forget his name, like, or which one it was exactly, but the one where well, first they say to count it all joy, but the ones, I think it was Paul and Silas, right? Like they were like singing in jail and stuff like that, or like just yeah. Anyways, so like those situations where it's like where you feel like you're in an unlikely place, but as long as you know what you're trying to achieve, and as long as like you're honoring God, like that will happen. You know, it's like you'll find a way, and you'll be fulfilled. And yeah, so I don't know if that helps anyone at all, but basically, yeah, just like really allow God to lead you in your career and like what you do, and like remember what it is you're trying to accomplish with that, and in honoring God. And who knows how many careers he'll lead you through, and the lessons you'll learn, and yeah, the things you'll accomplish. And I hope that this did help somebody. But yes, other than that, I will pass it on to Cece, who's right beside me.
Okay. Okay. Hold on. Let me shift myself, adjust myself. Hi, Kirsten. I can see your face. Hi, everyone. Okay, so good to see everyone here. I'm just trying to do this so that sun's not in your eyes. Okay.
Wow, you're so beautiful.
So are you. So good to see everyone here. Okay, what can I share? Like, honestly, Lavina and Ella shared some super good stuff about identity, about expectations, about, you know, wanting one thing, getting another, and learning great things. And I think I share in a lot of those similar themes. So what I'll do instead is I'll talk about some other stuff that maybe hopefully Malar pass you mad. Lamar, I won't steal away his stuff. So I want to talk about money, you guys, because this is career that we're talking about, and I know that money is always going to be part of it, and money's going to be money's going to be a part of our lives for as long as we live. And so what kind of mindset should we have? And I think this is something that we shouldn't be afraid to talk about or to think about or to question. And because I think a lot of times in church, it is something where kind of afraid to talk about, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh no, I don't want to, you know, be greedy. Oh, I don't want to be the rich young ruler. Oh, I don't want to be the, you know, rich person. It's harder to get to heaven, something through the needle of the eye than getting a camel through the needle of the eye. So you're like, oh my goodness, what do I think about money? And we live in this society where it's very, very important because we gotta live. And so I guess one of the things I want to encourage everyone, all of us do, is to not be afraid to question, to not be afraid to go and learn. So even if it's like books about finances or books about things that you want to learn about, you know, listen to YouTube or listen to lectures. Like, I think it's good for us to go and learn, not be afraid that we will be kind of led astray, which is one of the fears that we have, I know. But to be able to like trust in God and trust in the fact that he's given us a mind to be able to determine whether something is like, you know, godly or not. And so one of the things I want to talk about when it comes to money is the fact that I think a lot of times, I don't know what your mindset is, but my mindset before was how I really want to make a lot of money. I'm just being real. So when my parents and we came to Canada, I was like 8 years old, and we were like pretty poor. We lived in like a single bedroom, you know, basement suite, and like for years and years and years, my parents, we struggled financially. And though they were very well educated, I'm sure maybe some of you guys could kind of relate with, you know, parents coming from a different country and having to grow up in that immigrant mindset. And so my mindset essentially was, I'm going to grow up and make a whole lot of dough so that I never have to struggle like this, and my parents will never have to struggle like this, and my kids will never have to struggle like this. And so that was like a one-track mind when I was like a teenager, and I learned that you can go and build your own business and make your own money. And so I really, really wanted that. And you know, I didn't really spend a lot of times with friends when I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, and I just wanted to focus on my career. And I got into business. I went into like several different businesses, and they all failed miserably. and and then I got into this dry fruit business, which became successful. It's doing well now. But I think throughout that process, because I was so single-mindedly focused on making money and making a name for myself, which if you're into the Enneagram is a very type 3 thing to do, which you guys, Enneagram, look it up. And so I was like single-minded, one track, wanted to do that. And I neglected sort of what it is that I am passionate about and what I am naturally gifted at. And so, you know, Lavina and Ella did touch on that. And I think that's really cool because I think most of us will look into what we are good at before we choose a career. But I actually didn't. I just went ahead and was like, I want to make money and that's all I'm going to do. And so when I became, you know, Christian and Adventist, I started to learn all these different things about how we should look at money in terms of the Christian way. And some of it is, you know, a little bit to be afraid of money in a sense, which is on the negative side of things. And so what I want to encourage is that it's not necessarily a bad thing to want to make money. It's the intention behind it. And I think it's also the misunderstanding of what it is. And so money is purely a trading of values. So what does that mean? It means like if Lavina has done a good job at doing my makeup and my hair and things like that, in order to show her gratitude, I can't just say a thank you because she spent her time and effort and knowledge and expertise. I would give her something of equal value, right? And so that's pretty much what money is. So money is something where you would gain if you provide value for other people. So if you provide value at your job, if you for your boss, for your company, if you provide value as a service person, whether as a psychologist, whether as a lawyer, whether as a doctor, the more value you provide to society, the more essentially, give or take, the more money you would make. And so the harder the job is, the more valuable it is, the more rare it is. So that's pretty much what it is. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's just how society works. And so in that same note, we have to understand, okay, what kind of value can I bring to society? What kind of value can I bring to my fellow friends and community? And if I can bring the best of myself, then I should be okay. And that's the basis of it, right? On top of that, we can talk about education, all those other things. But I wanted to quickly touch on that. I also wanted to talk about, there are things where we are expected to do. So for example, as Adventists, as Filipino Adventists, I've heard a lot of people being expected to be nurses and doctors in the medical field, right? And so there's that expectation. And it's not easy sometimes to essentially fight against that expectation. And so I want to just encourage you to not be afraid to try to understand who you are. And that might take a few years even. It might take you a year to be like, you know what, like Ella's like, I know what I want to do and I am good at this and I do have a talent and a knack for it. And she goes after it. But for the rest of us who may not be in that same boat, I just want to encourage you and say, that's okay. That's totally okay. It might take you a little bit to try out different things, to figure out what it is that you are good at and what you might even develop into. That is perfectly fine. To go against the expectations of your parents. Ooh, are they here? Sorry, parents. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. And I know I'm sure like a lot of people say that, don't be afraid to fail, but we are. Like we really are afraid to fail. We are afraid to make mistakes because we don't want to waste time. We don't want to waste resources. We don't want to waste our life away. And whether we like it or not, we do compare ourselves with other people. And those things can be worked out when we start to understand ourselves more and value ourselves and love ourselves. And that is a journey in itself. To love and value ourselves will help us not compare ourselves with each other and eventually bring us into a space where we are okay with us and then be able to give to the world what we are capable of giving. If that's not the doctor, being a doctor, or being a lawyer, or being something prestigious, we become okay with that because we are okay with who we are. And that, again, might take a little bit time. But I want to encourage you to continue to do that because that will bring everlasting joy. That will bring you true joy and happiness, not just going into something because we're expected to. That will not bring you joy. That will not bring you happiness. That will only bring you confusion and like turmoil and pain and gnashing of teeth. And so lastly, because you guys, Lamar's got some good stuff, I'm sure. But lastly, I do want to share this thing that I read the other day on Instagram. It's really cool. It talks about the culture rewarding us with acts of self-harm. Ooh, what is that? The culture rewarding us with acts of self-harm. Sounds dangerous. So we don't always see them that way because they provide us with social status approval from parents and friends. We don't always see what that way. We don't see these so-called acts of self-harm as acts of harm because we actually get approval from society and from our friends, from our parents, etc. What do those things look like? I'll share in just a little bit. But from the time we are children, we're programmed with beliefs about success. So whatever success means to you, it's a belief system. It's literally what's been taught to you, what we believe to be true. And that might change over time. So we're programmed, believe about success, about what it is to be a good person, about what traits and emotions are okay to express, and which ones should be completely denied or repressed. We are taught these things. It's why I struggle with the idea of clinical depression or clinical anxiety. This is from the psychologist who wrote this. These stages are so common, we rarely ask why. We rarely ask why there is clinical depression or clinical anxiety. We diagnose, we treat, we look at the patterns, we look at the beliefs that have created a collective so-called depression, collective so-called anxiety. But we're so lost, we're so frustrated. And so what are these so-called self-harm things that are approved by our parents and friends? One is overworking, overachieving, and constantly going. So it's like having visions, these goals, having ambitions. And a lot of times we are awarded in the church, we are awarded by our parents for having like ambitions and having goals. And I'm not saying those are bad things, but we gotta actually look at it from a different perspective. Is that we think, oh, having ambitions, having goals is a really, 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 really good thing. But a lot of times we have those things which are then, what do you call it? Like reinforced by our parents and by our peers, like, oh, good job. You're so amazing that you have these ambitions and goals. And that reinforces us wanting to have more ambition, wanting to have more goals, and then overworking to achieve it. And so having an ambition you didn't consciously choose, having or using the avatar of a workaholic is often a means of escape that leads to severe unhappiness. So a lot of times we tell ourselves that we are really busy, or, oh, like how you doing? What's going on? Yeah, I'm really busy. Yeah, just so many things going on. Yeah, it's so chaotic. You know how life is. Like we see that as a good thing, right? We see that as a status thing. So that's one thing that society awards us for doing, but could cause self-harm. The second thing is self-sacrifice as love. So we sacrifice ourselves because, so this might not pertain to a lot of younger people, but for moms, etc., for parents, a lot of times it's a lot of self-sacrifice and it's seen as love. And so, but the thing is, we cannot truly give until we give to ourselves first. I won't go too much into that. Number 3 is overextending ourselves financially to keep up with others. So once you do have that successful career, we might get into a pattern where we will buy something we will wear something, we will, the type of car we get, the location of our house, whatever it may be, little or big things. And sometimes you would be aware of it, and you might be like, oh, I'm buying this thing because I know it looks good. I want us to be compassionate with ourselves and just be aware of it, and not beat ourselves up for it, but be aware of it and know that it's something that we do have to work on a little bit. And finally, being always available or on call, especially rewarded with family or work environments. And so, man, these things can be expanded into like hour-long conversations, but learning about boundaries is something that I had to learn in my 20s. And I really encourage you guys to read the book Boundaries, because there's so much information in there, talking about relationships, talking about how we deal with family, how we deal in the workplace. What I do want to say at the end is that I want to encourage you guys that, like, don't take it too seriously. Be okay with yourselves. When we make mistakes, when life doesn't go our way, because it's not going to go our way. Life is not going to go our way. Things are going to happen that you're going to be like, I thought I was somebody. I thought I was going to do something. I thought life was going to go in this direction, and it doesn't. But then being okay with that and knowing that in the end, it will be okay, and that you will find a career that you enjoy doing, and you will be okay. That's what I want to say. Thanks for listening. Man, it was long.
Thank you.
Lamar, you're next.
Thank you.
I don't know how people expect me to go up after, just straight bars upon bars upon bars from like everyone. This is a cipher that I am going to lose in. But yeah, I guess kind of picking up from where Cece left off from, that last point that you made in terms of being okay with, things not necessarily going the way that you expect. One of the things that I actually learned from a really young age, and I'm kind of thankful for a rather wise careers teacher that taught me this, it's the fact that we often think of a career being one job that we're kind of stuck in for the rest of our lives, or that one job that we think is going to fit us for 50 years until retirement. But how can you expect that from somebody that, worked 20 years as a doctor and then said, you know what, I want to make a change, and then goes into business, and then spends the last 10 years of their life into business? Or, as many of us that are of immigrant descent, that, they're well educated at from the places that they were, and then they come here and they have to do a completely different job from what they were educated with, having to relearn a whole series of education for a new job to fit into where they are. And all that to say that at the end of the day, the career isn't just one job, but it's all the education, all the wisdom, all the knowledge, all the experiences that you've had over the course of your lifetime. Once you're able to shift their understanding of a career from being just that one job to all the education that you've done, all the work that you've already done, all the volunteer experience that you've done, all the jobs that you're doing, the ones that you did well, the ones that you failed at, the ones that you keep doing until the day that you say, I'm done, and I hang up everything. That's your career, not just the one job. And once we can shift our understanding to that, it's no longer just about trying to find that one job, but trying to allow ourselves to experience everything along the way. So for all of us that are both students or in the work profession or kind of in between all of that, just know you've already been in your career process, because that's where you are. Everything that you're learning and experiencing is part of your career. And then I guess fast forwarding into high school, another thing that really resonated with me, I started, by the grace of God, I started to be introduced to a lot of different concepts. I was part of a leadership group called Be More Academy, which really focused on how to grow not only the confidence, but the leadership skills of a lot of the Black people in the community, especially the Black youth. And one of the things that they really did try to convey to us was the concept of vision. And it's not just vision as to like, what do you want to do with your life? But like, it was more about the why behind everything that you choose to do, and understanding that everything that you do comes out of your vision. A lot of times in the Christian community, we say your purpose, we say your contribution. But it's the idea that there's a why, that driving force behind it all. Lavina kind of mentioned it before, like being able to heal and being able to teach. Those are vision words. They're things that are not just like, they're things that are not just one time and fits in one box, but kind of flows into everything that she does. She wants to heal and she wants to teach. So that's one thing that definitely resonated with me, in the sense that everything that I want to do, what is the why behind it? What drives me to continue to do what I wanted to do? So, you know, growing up, there was always, as you know, as Cece said, like, there are times you're kind of expected to have these prestige types of jobs, you know, being a doctor, being a lawyer, being all that type of stuff, the mainstream ones that are flashy, cool, and all that type of stuff. And honestly, like, a lot of those came to mind. I definitely at one point wanted to be a doctor. I recognized that I hated labs, so that just wasn't going to be a thing. I loved blowing stuff up, but at the end of the day, like, having to do the lab write-ups, wasn't for me. And then at one point, being a lawyer really just resonated with me, and not just any lawyer. Like, I wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer, because I recognized that there was a lot of people that were being wrongfully accused, especially within immigrant populations. And I mean, there was a lot of challenges in terms of understanding that, but I think I was probably around 12 when I made that statement. And I recognized the why behind it is because I genuinely wanted to help people that were in situations that were unjust. And I recognized that there was a lot of injustice that was going on in the world. So now at that age, you know, you're starting to build that why, that thing that has you saying, I'm kind of passionate, as I've brought up before, I'm passionate about something because there's a why behind it. So because of that, what the avenue is, it kind of shifts, it kind of changes. How it kind of manifests on a day-to-day basis kind of changed throughout my educational, my academic, as well as my work career. But at the end of the day, there was always a why behind it. Eventually, right now, if I were to say, I guess, my vision, my contribution, it would be healing, growth, and infinite potentiality. Like, everything that I do, it's kind of centered in those things, whether it be healing, especially from the mind's perspective, growing to continually become, and then infinite potentiality, the recognition that we are so much more than just what limitations there are outside around us. And those are my vision words. I'm going to suggest for all of us, you know, try to find the why behind what you're doing, because it doesn't just propel you into what jobs you may want to do, but it propels you in everything else that you're doing in the world around you. It allows for you to really see not only what you may want to do, but also the things that you might not want to get yourself into as well. How well are the things that you're aligning yourself with, whether it be, you know, a job, a volunteer opportunity, even an event at church, some of the things that your parents are asking you to do, how well does it align to your why? That why, I'm someone that truly believes that that vision, that purpose, that destiny is something that God placed inside each and every one of us. I believe that there's three things that we are born with, which is our necessities, you know, the things that we need, our food, water, drink, whatever, spiritual connection with God, our identity, who we truly are, and our purpose, our destiny, which oftentimes is what we are called to do. And that destiny, that vision is so much beyond just one specific job. It's everything that we interact with, everything that we contribute to. And our contribution is often aligned to that why question of what is it that truly allows for me to say I'm contributing, I'm allowing for more to happen than is just me. For those that have heard me say this before, honestly, had it not been for God, I would be in a completely different lifestyle. I, at one point, was extremely into football, and it was to the point where I was actually training with a bunch of people that were striving to go to the NFL. So it was a path that I thought that I was good at. I mean, Ella once brought up like the difference between passion and purpose, or passion and calling. Football was something that I was definitely passionate about. It was something that I was definitely good at. It was something I was talented with. And I guess, long story short, I recognized that as I was growing closer to God, that was starting to become a lot more frictionless with me, only because I recognized that a lot of the games that were supposed to happen would have happened on Sabbath. And like that was something that I was holding on to for me. And I recognized that it was God that had brought me into football in the first place, so I couldn't dishonor God with that. And I bring up that only to say that we shouldn't confuse our talents with our career, our talents with our purpose. We shouldn't try to confuse the two. Yes, our talents and our passions can help us inform what our vision may be. It may help us inform what that purpose and that contribution is, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's that in particular. Just because we might be good at music doesn't necessarily mean that we're all supposed to be musicians. Or just because we're all good at speaking doesn't mean that we're all supposed to be pastors. So no disrespect to anybody that is going for the route of pastor. If that's where you think God's calling you to do, then go ahead and do it. I'm just saying that our passion, no, not necessarily a passion, our purpose and our contribution is far more than just a job, and it's far more than just our talents. And we have to, again, be willing to ask ourselves, why am I doing this? Is this genuinely in alignment with that very contribution I know needs to be in this world? Not just I want it to be in this world, but what I know needs to be in there, not just for myself, but for everybody that's in my community, everybody that I'm attached to. Those are the things that I recognize I needed. I needed healing. I needed growth. I needed to always be in recognition of my infinite potentiality because I was living in a world that was completely and utterly bogged down. And I recognize everyone in my community needed that as well. So it's in that same light that if we are in recognition of that, we won't end up having to be confused about some of those things. It takes a while to find out, and it takes a while to ask those questions. Kind of as Cece brought up, there's a lot of information that's kind of put out there that kind of bogs our ability to really see clearly. It's very easy to just want to get a job for the sake of money or to appease our parents, or just because at the end of the day, that's kind of what's all of society is asking us to do. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's supposed to be in alignment with who we are. And I will say this, just like I kind of said before, I'm going to kind of say this now. Just because you have a job doesn't necessarily mean that's your purpose either. It doesn't mean that's your calling per se either. As Lavina brought up, I am a firm believer that your career is really just a tool for you to fulfill your purpose. It is another avenue in which you can allow for your vision to be brought into manifestation. So right now in particular, I'm working as a counselor in the Richmond area. So I'm working in that space right now because I recognize that it allows for me to step into spaces where I can provide healing, I can provide growth, and I can provide each person that steps in front of me the recognition that there's so much more than the circumstances that they're in, that recognition of infinite potentiality. That doesn't necessarily mean that that is my end all be all at the same time. I know, just like we said at the very beginning, our career isn't just one job, but it is the full gamut of everything that we do throughout the course of our life. It's the same thing with my purpose. At the end of the day, it is the full gamut of everything, and it is not just going to manifest in my job. In fact, I'm very much aware that my purpose, my destiny, my calling is going to happen beyond me even when I die. The effect and the impact that I will be leaving and that you all will be leaving once you all truly are in alignment with it is going to be so much beyond you that once you've already set it in motion, it's going to have ripple effects throughout everyone. So yeah, even in the jobs that you're looking for now, know that that doesn't have to be your end all be all. There could be so much more out there for you. There could be so many more things that could possibly be in alignment. On my way to getting into
No, I think Lamar's frozen. Or is that just me?
No, he is frozen for me too.
Okay, maybe he ran out of battery or something. I don't know. I will message him. But oh, hi Lamar. Sorry. Oh, you're muted. You're muted.
I think that was on my side. So what was the last thing y'all heard? Let me just ask that question.
I, I kind of I got distracted by your frozen face.
It's okay. No
That was
worries.
kind of funny, but yes.
I recognize that I was talking and no one was moving. So I was like, okay, something's up. Okay, so what was I saying? Did y'all hear the part about me working as a counselor right now?
Yes. That was-
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm working as a counselor. It is in alignment with my vision, but I know that it's not my end all be all. At the end of the day, I know that even getting into the space that I am right now is because I allowed for God to lead me in every step of the way. I know that at the end of the day, I could have gone into a whole bunch of other paths as well. I was studying criminology for my first undergrad at Carleton. I still am kind of studying to a specific degree. A lot of my studies in my second undergrad, as well as my master's, even though my master's in counseling, a lot of it had to deal with youth psychology and criminal justice on a youth psychology level. So there's still a lot of studies going into that. And I recognize that a lot of my purpose is in that. To refine purpose a little bit, a lot of times you'll hear people talk about your mission. It's not just the why, but how do you come with the why? And that's where it really informs, that's what really allows for us to kind of inform how we go about doing the things that we do. For instance, if I pick on Lavina a little bit more, in saying that her why, her vision is healing and teaching, her mission is doing so through aesthetics and beautification. So that is just kind of the add-on to how she kind of refines how she gets to where she gets to. So you already know vision, you already know mission. I know that my mission in particular has to specifically deal with youth and communities, being able to provide them resources to be connected to their vision and to their purposes as well. So in doing that and recognizing that, I've also allowed myself to not only limit myself to just one specific job, but how I invest myself in church as well. That's why for the most part, a lot of my things are either community-based or youth ministries. That's why a lot of the other jobs that I've done, whether it be at hospitals or at group homes or whatever, have to deal with either the community or with the youth. Because there was a recognition of not only what my contribution was in terms of healing, growth, and infinite potentiality, but also how what I was given by God, my own talents and my own purposes, allowed for that to be given to other people. But yeah, all that to say that it doesn't necessarily mean that the job that I'm at now is my end destination. There could be so much more, and there could be so much more for each and every one of you as well. So just allow yourself to be more in understanding and awareness of what your purpose is, what your vision is. And by that as well, allow for your talents, your skills, the things that you are passionate about to inform how you're going to bring that into manifestation, how you're going to bring that into reality. Through it all, this is, I guess, what I can say about it all. The only reason I was able to really get there, and truthfully speaking, getting to the book of Matthew, where the Most High says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all else shall be added unto you." I know I wouldn't have gotten there had I not allowed for my time to be God first and God centric. He was the one that was kind of leading every step. I mean, even coming here was kind of a big jump. Like, it was one of those things where, I don't know, the school that I was planning to go to in terms of my master's, it really resonated with me because it was a counseling psychology program that dealt specifically with youth as well as criminology. And then for those that, like I said before, that's a lot of alignments with my mission and my purpose, trying to help change the criminal justice system for youth, especially for youth that are POCs, people of color, as well as immigrant youth. So it was one of those things that were in alignment, but I was kind of hiffing and hawing about like, yo, should I even make it? Should I even come out? I was kind of doing the same thing as Ella, like, should I even make this as a presumption that I should be coming out here? I honestly didn't make the decision until about 2 months before I was supposed to be in school. And I didn't find a place until the week after I got here in Vancouver. And everything, honestly, by God's grace, kind of worked out. I didn't tell nobody that I was coming here. And then somehow Kendall messaged me saying, so I hear you're coming to Vancouver. And I'm like, huh? And for those that don't know, Kendall Bruette, another very, very interesting person. If you ever want to hear his testimony about work as well, it's a powerful one. Yeah, but he had to make the same move, and it's just so happened that he made it a month before I did. And by God's grace, we've been kind of living a Vancouver adventure ever since. But it was a lot of things where it's like, so long as I made that choice to allow for God to reveal himself to me, allow for him to define who I am, to heal me, to grow me, and for me to see my infinite potentiality, that purpose that he put into me. It's the more that he allowed for my steps to be ordered by him. So in doing so, that's really the crux of it all. You know, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. Seek God, seek his will, and he'll show you how to get to point A, point B, point C. Yeah, that's really it. That's basically it.
Thank you so much, Lamar, for speaking. I know we went kind of overtime, but everything you said really resonated with me too. And anyone else who's watching, yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for participating, all the participants today. And we'll just have our closing prayer by Arlene to end.
Let's bow our heads for prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful day that you have given us to come together through Zoom for this special AY. Thank you for all 4 participants, for their vulnerability and for their ability to share their story with us and about their future and their career. I like to pray for the rest of the day, all the students here and all those who are already working. Thank you for loving us each day. Amen.
Amen. Thank you again, everyone, and happy Sabbath.